Joining me live now is Professor Peter Dean, Director of Foreign Policy and Defence at the United States Studies Centre. Thanks for your time. I guess just first of all, in layman's terms, how dangerous is this?
Oh, this is a very dangerous action by the Chinese aircraft. So basically, from the reports that we've heard, a Chinese J-10 fighter aircraft has flown only a few hundred metres in front of the Australian helicopter and released flares. This has caused the helicopter to take evasive action. And if those flares had actually engaged with the helicopter or come in contact with it, it could have caught in the rotor blades or the flare itself, which is very high burning magnesium, could have easily have set the helicopter on fire. So this is a really provocative and coercive act by China. And in fact, it's the very type of actions that the government has called out in its recent national defence strategy is of increasing concern by China in the region.
It's not just happening to Australia, of course. This is a pattern to Australia and to others. I mean, the Philippines have repeatedly complained things such as powerful water cannons fired at their vessels. I mean, the other concern is that China causes deaths, dare I say it. What happens in that situation? What's the sort of danger of what happens to relations in that circumstance?
Well, this is very high-risk behaviour by the Chinese. As you said, one of the great fears or risks of this type of action and behaviour happening in international waters, happening against a ship in this case that was operating under a United Nations mandate enforcing United Nations sanctions, is that somebody loses their life, that they come across too close, that they come to some type of level of interaction which causes serious injury or the loss of life. And what is really concerning here with this type of brinkmanship type behaviour is not only could that potentially happen in the loss of life, but it opens up doors to escalation. If it becomes an incident where there's a death, who knows what might happen on either side in relation to responses and action. Now, we know that the Australian Defence Force have very clear rules of engagement and very clear operating concepts and procedures to ensure that safety, but the Chinese are exhibiting behaviour that they basically do not. And of course, we live in a region where China has constantly pushed back against attempts to put guardrails or safety mechanisms in place. Of course, they're doing this flagrantly against international law.
So here's the question, though. Australia, other countries have just repeatedly been the bigger person in the room, if you like, because the alternative is, you do ratchet things up. But is there an alternative to that? What else can we do apart from we hear the normal condemnations? It's been raised at diplomatic levels, or the highest level we heard last time. We didn't ever hear if it was the PM himself, but is there another path?
Well, look, the PM's announced he's made normal diplomatic representations, and I think that's appropriate. Picking up the phone and speaking to Xi Jinping is not going to change Chinese behaviour on this. As you've said, this is a pattern of coercive behaviour that they're conducting, not only against us, but against Japan, against Korea, against the Philippines, the United States, and other navies and forces who operate legitimately in international waters in this region. What we're attempting to do, along with our partners and allies, is ensuring that we maintain the freedom of the seas and international law is upheld. We have to constantly push back against this kind of aggressive behaviour, constantly, as the government has done and the Department of Defence in this case, bring it to light and make people aware of it. But it should not dissuade the Australian military or any other military of our friends and partners in this region from actually conducting these types of operations. In fact, an appropriate signal would be to double down on these types of operations and ensure that we're supported and protected further by allies and partners, and we continue to work with our partners to advocate for this. This is basically staring down the coercive tactics of China. What they want is for us to pull back. What they want for us is to stop doing this. What they want is for us to concede a sort of version of unrecognised or informal autonomy that they have over these seas and these regions. And this is what they're attempting to do with this type of behaviour. As I said, standing firm in the face of this behaviour, international condemnation, publicly outing and calling these behaviours out for what they are, is really critically important in what is commonly called sort of these grey zone coercive tactics.
Yeah, I guess it's a thing. If we're not backing down at all and in fact ramping them up, that's the best message we can send. Peter Dean, appreciate your time today. Thank you.
My pleasure.